frame geometry, or they've done a couple of things with the way the bike is set up, so it handles quite good. I can't say I know what the original, or what the V7, the first version, handled like, or the second, but apparently they were reasonable. But this one, apparently, so they say, is quite decent. And as I say, I'm not an expert. I ride relatively well, but it handles good enough for me. I'm not into flying through really heavy twisties and curves as such, but nonetheless, I think it could be sufficient, and it could be adequate for some twisties and some curves in the mountains in Cyprus, in the Trudus, or in Spain. We'll soon find out. I've seen reviewers on YouTube testing this bike, and they seem to they're more in the know than I am, and they say that it handles quite nice. So you'll have to take their word on it. But in my opinion, I think the bike handles very reasonably. The transmission's a little bit, it's a 6-speed. It's a dry clutch, not a wet clutch. That apparently is what works best with the MOTO GUZZI layout. I like it. I don't, as I say, I've had other bikes. I've had Yamahas and Hondas, and I think they've had wet clutches, but this seems reasonably smooth, in my humble opinion. It's got a bit of a clunkiness to it, which, from what I understand, is similar to some KTM's, some BMW's. So it's nothing that's really annoying, but nonetheless, it is evident. And if you want to have a transmission that doesn't exhibit those kinds of characteristics, well, then maybe you might not want to buy this particular bike. But it shifts nice, no problems ever finding neutral. There's no false neutrals. As I say, the transmission is improved on this particular version too, from what I understand, and I think I noted it's turning just over 3,300 RPM at about 70 miles an hour, which is a perfectly sort of adequate rev to be at when you're at motorway speeds like that. The bike redlines, I understand, at either 72 or 7,800. I haven't brought it anywhere close to that at this point yet, because as I say, it's a brand new bike. It's only got about 350 miles on it, and every time I want to bring the revs up any higher than 4,500, these red lights keep flashing on, which is something I understand they set in the ECU. So it doesn't stop me from actually exceeding the 4,500 RPM, but it does give me an indication that it's not happy me doing that. So I'm not going to push. I'm not going to push it. That's what MOTO GUZZI recommends. So I will follow their advice. So as I say, I haven't had it much beyond 4,500, 5,000 RPM, and that's where I'll keep it until after I've had the first servicing. And at that point, it will rev to 72 or 7,800, whatever the maximum happens to be. Another reason I actually bought this particular motorcycle versus the Stone version was that this is the special version, or this is the Anniversario, or the special, is that it's got this double setup here. It has a tack and it has a speedometer. The Stone is a stripped down version, and it only has the the speedometer. And I've had bikes with my first bike I had way back in the 70s, and it had a tack and it had a speedometer, which was nice. And a bike that I recently had in the I think I got it in 2004, 2005, it only had a speedometer, and I found that quite annoying. I mean, you like to sort of know the rev range that you're at, and that was another thing that appealed to me about this particular model, that it had the it had the tack, and it had the speedometer, not just the speedometer. Other than that, differences between this and the Stone, as I say, the Stone is basically a fairly stripped down model. It's got most of the same equipment. It's a little bit lighter actually. This one, I believe, weighs in at about 200 213 kilos wet, you know, full tank of fuel. The stone maybe is about 3 or 4 kilograms less. I'm not sure why that would be. Perhaps because of maybe some of the metals being used on the bike. But nonetheless, it's not a heavy bike. You know, a bike 210 or so kilos wet is not heavy. It's good enough for cruising on the open road. As I say, one nice thing I should make note of is that another reason I purchased this bike too is that I wanted a tank that was large, sufficient, and this tank holds 21 liters. A lot of the other bikes that I was looking at, and a Triumph Bonneville would have been sort of next on my wish list. The tank on that bike wasn't quite as big, and it also had a chain. I got nothing against chain maintenance, and it's you know, it's not the worst thing in the world to have to do. But nonetheless, if you can avoid that sort of stuff, you know, why not? I mean, this is a shaft drive, which is much nicer, smoother, quieter than a chain. Nothing wrong with chains. However, the shaft drive is very, very nice, and as I say, it's smooth. MOTO GUZZI, just like BMW, have perfected this system. There's from what I see, there's not a whole lot of you know, jumping around when you're in a curve, though I really haven't had a chance to assess it perfectly well yet, you know, going through the gears in a curve. But from what I hear, it's not really an issue. Chain obviously is better on a high performance bike, but you know, this is more than sufficient for you know, this kind of you know, this kind of utilization. So as I say, that was one other reason why I wanted to get this bike, was because it had the larger fuel tank. Triumphs were, I think, 15, 16 liters, and I wanted to have some extended range. I'd heard from other people that have this bike that you know, the range can actually be as far as 300 miles, which you know, that's what I need. I need to have a bike with that kind of capacity. I don't want to be you know, tied to going to, you know, petrol stations, you know, every 3 hours. This is going to provide me with a good bit of extended range. So that was another reason I sort of chose this bike over the Triumph. I do like the Triumph an awful lot. You know, the Bonneville, the Bobber. I was looking at other bikes as well too. I was looking at BMW R9Ts. Nice bike as well. Not probably quite as suitable for myself, but nonetheless, this is an evaluation of this bike at this particular point in time. So that was one reason why I had selected this bike. Well, two reasons: the shaft drive and the size of the fuel tank. So it is nice not to have to fill up all the time. What else can I say? Braking, yeah, it's got a Brembo on the front, and it's not a Brembo on the rear. Very smooth, you know, it's got good sort of modulation. I'm not sure what size the disc is. I'm not sure what size the disc is on the back either. It's smaller than the front one, but yeah, it brakes nicely. I haven't had any panic stops or anything like that. It does have ABS. It does have traction control, like most sort of modern bikes, and it's something you want to have. It's set automatically on the bike. When you start it up, you have to disengage it. You have to go out of your way to disengage it. So yeah, I haven't felt it kicking in yet, but apparently it is quite nice when you're driving in the rain and you lose a bit of traction, and that will rescue you. So yeah, what else can I say here? You know, ride's nice. Seat height is just over 30 inches. My inseam is 31 inches, so it's perfect. I can keep my feet flat on the ground. For reference, I'm 140 pounds, 10 stone, 5'9". The bike fits me perfectly. I think if you're a 6-footer, it might still work. I've heard other people say that, you know, they've done okay on the bike, you know, being 5'10", 6 feet. I'm not sure how well it would work on somebody who's, you know, 6'2", 6'3", but you know, that's all you can do is try, right? Okay, that's our little review of this MOTO GUZZI V7, and I'm enjoying it so far. I got it from Wheels Motorcycles up in Peterborough. I was actually quite concerned I wasn't going to get this particular model when I had wanted it. I sort of got the inkling to get a bike back in May of 2017, and then I was humming and hawing which version I get. The you know, the Blue Special, which my wife sort of wanted me to get, but that's my bike. I got what I wanted. And then I went back to Canada for a month in the summer, and then there happened to be a MOTO GUZZI festival, or not a festival, but an open house, a celebration of some sort in September in 2017, and I'm thinking, you know, jeepers, you know, I want this bike. I couldn't buy it in Canada. I want the bike. There's going to be no way that I'm going to, you know, be able to purchase this bike, because they're you know, because of the festival and the hype that you know, is generated, that I'm not going to be able to find one. So I called all over England, and a company by the name of Wheels Motorcycles, right there up in Peterborough, which is about 100 miles north of London, said, listen, you know what, we've got one, we can sell it to you. And I made an arrangement that I paid for it and I could pick it up in April, and they were perfect to do business with. I tried buying it in London, and I just couldn't. Nobody had one available. You know, it was the typical case of, you know, you should have done it when you had the chance, and I didn't do it when I had the chance, so I waited until September. Fortunately, Wheels up in Peterborough was able to accommodate me, and yeah, great doing business with those guys. Beautiful bike, good price. What did I pay for this thing? 8,500, I think. 8,500 pounds, which is a pretty decent deal for a 100% Italian bike. So, which translates to about, I'm not sure, 12,000, 13,000 US dollars, 13, 14,000 Canadian dollars. I'm not sure what the situation is, but nonetheless, I paid 8,500 for it, which I think was a steal. Good bike. It's proving to be a bit of fun. Could use a bit of a clean. Aluminum mudguards, polished aluminum, actually, polished, not polished, that is brushed aluminum mudguards, front and rear, chrome pipe, chrome tank, leather seat. Yeah, so what else can I say? How about we just let the riding do the talking? So we'll head back on the M4 back to West London, where I live. Park the bike, and then I'll get out my Sunday. Got a bit of work to do and hang out with my wife and a few other things. So what more can I say about this bike? No, it's been good so far. I'm looking forward to getting the first tune-up done at 600 miles. It's another 300 miles. And it should, they say it'll perform even better at that point in time, because they're going to, I guess, set the valves and you know, change the oil, change a couple of other fluids, check the you know, the systems. Well, anyways, that's my little review of this bike. If I've missed anything critical, sorry, but I'll perhaps try to do a better review another time when I actually have a chance and I'm more experienced with this bike. As I say, I've only had it really for about, well, let's see, April, May, June. I've only had it for just over 3 months, and I've probably only ridden it about 10 times. So far so good. I've ridden lots of bikes in my life, but this is a nice one, and I think it suits me at this point in time in my life. You know, there's plenty of faster bikes out there. We all know that. And yeah, I guess you know, if you're maybe getting, I would say this bike would be pretty decent if you're getting back into motorcycling, but too much power. It's certainly reasonable if you've been into motorcycling for a while, as I have. I mean, I'm almost 60, and I've been motorcycling since how long? Since 1977. So, you know, on and off. And I've had numerous bikes, but this bike suits me just fine. As I say, the size it's good for me. Yeah, what else can I say? I'm going to put some bags on here. GV's got some bags, panniers. I'll put one there. Probably have a pack across here. And you know, I'll probably have upwards of about 100 liters of storage for this bike. And you know, the windshield right there, and we should have ourselves a good little touring machine. I certainly hope so anyways. And you know, with the shaft drive and the simple setup of that V-twin with the power that it's got, I should be good to go. So let's get our butts back to London. We're only about, well, Heathrow's just over there. We're only about you know, I guess about 8 or 10 miles from Hammersmith, and the bike lives in Wandsworth. Oh, by the way, the bike's name is Como. The reason I call her that, I say it's a her, my wife says it's a he. Ridiculous as it may sound, I call her that because she was manufactured in near Lake Como in Italy. Every bit of her. Nothing made in some other country other than Italy. So yeah, that's my review of the bike. Handles nice. Oh, fuel economy, I'm not sure what I'm getting yet. I've really been riding it around town. 45, 50 miles per gallon, per British gallon, which is 4.5 liters. So, yeah, it's better than my car, that's for certain. Yeah, so she's a good looker. The newer Moto Guzzis, this is a 2017. The newer ones, there's a couple of new ones they've introduced. They introduced a carbon, which is quite cool looking. It's got a red sort of bit on the cylinder head there, and they've got a Milano version, which is kind of a cream sort of colored, and sort of like this color right here down there. And there's a version that's called the Rough, and it's quite neat looking too. Plus I think they still have the Racer, and they have the Stone. In which colors I'm not sure. Probably still the yellow and then the green and the black. But this Anniversario was only offered in 2017, and that's why I'm happy that I bought it. So I think it should hold its value pretty good. I mean, I'll pick up another couple of bikes over the next few years anyways, but and I'm not particularly concerned about a bike holding its value, but I do think that this bike will hold its value. I'll take good care of it like I take good care of everything. So it should, you know, it should prove to, you know, be a reasonable investment. I mean, much of an investment.